No fights taking place this weekend, but fortunately enough, we do have the NFL season kicking off. So hopefully you guys are excited about that. I think that Dana White was paying a little respect to the NFL by taking this weekend off as the beginning of the NFL season begins to transpire. A lot of excitement for that. But you know the UFC is relentless. We have another exciting card taking place next weekend. UFC Vegas 37, Ryan Spann versus Anthony Smith. Let's get into it.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller.
What is up, you guys? I'm excited for today's episode, not for any specific reason other than I just love talking fights, and I think there's some intriguing matchups on this card. And, you know, whenever the UFC skips a weekend of fights, it even makes me a little bit more excited for the upcoming fight card. It's kind of got me craving for some UFC action, so that's kind of how I'm looking at this fight card. We take a look at some of the fights that we're going to be breaking down today. You know, Anthony Smith versus Ryan Spann. It has all the makings to be an exciting matchup. It really does. Taking place in the light heavyweight division. Anytime Ian Cutelaba's in the matchup, it's exciting. The weigh-in face-off is going to be exciting. Everything that guy does is just excitement and full of energy. So excited for that. You guys know Christos Giagos, longtime friend of the show, is going to be fighting on the main card, taking on a very tough customer in Arman Tsarukyan. Stay tuned to see my thoughts on that fight, man. That's a tough one there. Joaquin Buckley, a guy that has possibly the nastiest knockout of all time. So, just exciting fights, man. Guys trying to make names for themselves in the game. I like these types of matchups. Hannah Goldie, also somebody I've had the pleasure of chatting it up with, getting a fight coming off a loss that was just very recent. So I'm excited for her to get another opportunity in there. We'll be talking about that here in a second. You guys, please hit the like button. It's much appreciated from me here on my side. It really helps me out. Please hit that like button. Subscribe if you guys have not already. And what else can we say? I mean, we're going to jump into the fights here in a second. You guys know the routine. If you guys are interested in working with me for my official plays, do not hesitate to reach out. I can give you my pricing for my official plays. You guys know that I've been very, very hot over the last 2 months or so, and I expect that to definitely continue into this card. So if you guys are interested, shoot me an email. My email is scrolling below. Otherwise, it's just MMAfortuneteller@gmail.com. Shoot me a DM on Instagram, MMAfortuneteller_, or on Twitter, the MMA Teller. And please do follow me on all social media platforms. Again, it is highly, highly appreciated over here on my side. So with no further ado, we're going to jump into these fights. So first fight of the card, we got Hannah Goldie taking on Emily Whitmire. As I talked about earlier, Hannah Goldie was just in the octagon not too long ago. She had a tough time in there. I really felt like she left the fight in there. I thought that was a fight that she easily could have won. She had a slow start against Belbita, Diana Belbita, and to be honest, I thought that fight actually was closer than what the judges said. I thought it should have at least maybe been a split decision. Goldie, if you guys remember, finished the fight very strongly. She got on top and was raining down some ground and pound. And I thought that the first round was a close round as well, and arguably could have went for her. But I kind of understood why Belbita won the fight. Belbita was landing a lot more cleaner shots in there and looked good as well. But I think it was definitely a learning experience for Goldie. See her taking some shots there. Hannah Goldie is a girl that definitely has questionable striking defense. She stands a little upright with her striking, which I really don't like, because I think that she has a lot of potential on the feet, but she needs to bend her knees a little bit, sit a little lower in her stance. I would like to see her be a little bit more I would like to see her look a little bit more comfortable on her feet and work on her boxing, man. Bend her knees a little bit, be a little bit lighter on her feet. She's very upright, if I'm getting my point across there. Obviously, she is very, very physically strong, and we've seen those flashes from her. Again, in that fight against Belbita, when she actually wanted to turn it on, you saw her rip the takedown, go into mount. She showed to have some jiu-jitsu skills there as well, the way that she transitioned into the mount. Hannah Goldie, man, This is a big fight for her. If she loses this fight, that's 3 fights in a row. Of course, she lost to Miranda Granger, got taken down in that fight a little bit. And then, again, the Belbita fight was a tough one. Emily Whitmire is a girl that does have some jiu-jitsu skills. We've seen her go in there and pull off some jiu-jitsu stunts before. We saw her pull off the rear naked choke against Albu. But in her last fight, she got caught in a very elementary submission. She got caught, with that armbar. She was sitting in Pollyanna's guard. I mean, you could have seen that armbar coming from a mile away. So that was a little bit of a red flag on Whitmire and one of her strong suits. Supposedly her jiu-jitsu is her strong suit, and she got caught in a very elementary submission there. So keep that in mind. Not saying I think that Goldie's going to pull off any type of sub like that. I don't necessarily see that happening. I think Pollyanna is obviously more talented with her jiu-jitsu. Goldie will be a little bit more of a different type of grappler. She has some jiu-jitsu skills, but it's more of a strength-based jiu-jitsu type of style. I expect her to try to, if she gets on top, try to hold her down tight, maybe go into side control, try to drop some elbows there, and really work the ground and pound more so, holding position. And I could see that happening. I definitely could see that happening. On the feet, I think that Whitmire will look a little bit more comfortable there towards the beginning of the fight. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if Goldie starts off slow there again and eats a couple shots to the face. But I have this feeling that Goldie's really going to have a fire lit under her in this fight. She knows that her back's up against the wall, and I expect to see her looking a little bit more how she looked in the 3rd round in her last fight against Belbita earlier in the fight. I expect to see it at least in the 2nd round, if not towards the middle of the 1st round. So if she eats a couple shots, I really expect her to start to engage into this fight, in this fight, make it a little bit more of a nasty type of brawl. And I think that Goldie can shine there. I think Goldie will be stronger in the clinch. She'll be the better wrestler. And maybe not necessarily technique-wise, it'll be close there. But with the strength, I edge her to win this fight. And she's shown flashes on the feet, too. She has a nice body kick. She has some power in her hands. I'm hoping that she's working on the technique and whatnot and can really round out her game and get a victory inside the octagon here. I think this is possibly her last chance, at least as far as this stint goes. She's 29 years old. She's got to pull something off here. But Emily Whitmire is a girl that just lost 2 fights in a row, against Ribas and Pollyanna Viana. Before that, like I said, she took out Albu and took out Jamie Moyel. I haven't necessarily been too crazy about what I've seen from Whitmire on tape, but she's a capable fighter. And if Belbita can go out there and look the way that she looked against Goldie, there's no reason why Whitmire can't do that as well. But I'm going to edge Goldie. Maybe I'm a little biased here, but you guys know I do my best, and I'm pretty good at it, not letting any biases kick into my picks. I do like Goldie to win this fight. I do. My gut tells me the strength advantage and the fire lit under her gets her to win this fight. If you see her on social media, she's really, really hungry for this victory. So yeah, I'm rooting for her, but I think that she should edge this fight. It's a very close fight. Goldie will have a 2-inch reach disadvantage. She's an inch shorter. So Whitmire, a little bit of the bigger fighter here. I think Goldie shouldn't have a problem getting inside Whitmire's reach and, like I said, making this a dirty fight. But Goldie has to have that energy that she had in the 3rd round against Belbita early in the fight, and she could win this fight all day. We take a look at the betting line. Goldie is right about an even pick right now with a very, very slight lean on Whitmire. It's a pick'em fight. I'm taking the slight dog here on Goldie. And, I don't know if this is necessarily a fight you want to target as far as betting goes. If you want to throw some pizza money on it just to enjoy it. You guys know I got money on every single fight, but it's the official plays where we're talking big money, thousands and whatnot. This is a fight. Maybe you want to have some pizza money on it, and it makes it more enjoyable. But I think this is an enjoyable fight to watch, regardless of how you spin it. So enjoy that one there. And I'll be rooting on Hannah Goldie. And if you want to check out our full interview, of course it is here at the channel. MMA live discussion. I forget what episode, but just look it up. You search it in the search bar and it'll pop up. And all the best to Hannah Goldie there with her back against the wall. In the next fight, we got Gustavo Lopez taking on Healy Alateng. This is a good fight here. Two scrappy bantamweight fighters. Gustavo Lopez, a guy that's coming off a tough loss, but keep in mind of the level of fighters that he's going in there and battling against as of recently. Adrian Yanez is absolutely no joke and is proven to be one of the nastiest strikers in the game right now. Lopez did have a tough time in the office that day, but before that, he looked very, very good against Anthony Burchek and flashed with his grappling. You saw that he has some real skills there down on the mat, and if you're not up to par, he'll rip you down and he'll submit you. In this fight, I want to talk about the size too. Gustavo Lopez is a guy we've seen go into battle a little bit undersized against some of these guys. Yanez was way more rangier than him. This is a fight now where he has actually a half-inch reach advantage, and they're the same height. So I like that. That's definitely something going for him. His loss against Merab Dvalishvili. You guys know the deal. Merab is one of the nastiest guys in the division, a true dark horse to make a run for the belt. So no shame there as well. And also has a victory over Jose Alday, who we just saw fight on Dana White's Contender Series last episode, and a guy that's definitely a tough customer. So good win there. And real quick, let me see what else he's been doing over here. You take a look at his losses too. He had the split against Alday before that, so he won in the rematch. Lost to Andre Ewell, a very athletic UFC fighter. John Castaneda, UFC fighter. So it's good to see that his losses they're all against reputable fighters. Healy Alateng, a little bit more of a patient fighter. Definitely has some skills in the feet. He's well-rounded, a little bit more patient in there. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Alateng on the back foot a little bit. You see him taking a loss here against Casey Kenny. Casey, obviously, one of the more talented fighters in the division. Before that fight, Alateng was putting it together and really stringing off some victories. This is a very, very close fight, and the line is very accurate here, in my opinion. It's a pick'em. It's almost reminiscent, basically, is to the last fight we just talked about. So very close fights to kick the card off. I'm gonna take the slight dog, and again, it's pretty much a pick'em. So, but take it as it is. But a slight dog in Gustavo Lopez. I think that Gustavo's been fighting some very tough customers. He got broken down a little bit in some of those fights, but we saw what he did to Burchek, and I think there's some potential with this guy. I like what I've seen from him on the mat. I like the aggressiveness that he shows on the feet as well. I think he'll be the more aggressive fighter in this fight. I think that Alateng, although very talented and skilled in the feet as well, he'll be a little bit more in the back foot, where even if he has a little bit better technique and whatnot, I like Gustavo's pressure, and I think that could end up being the deciding factor as we go to the judges' scorecards. I like Gustavo here, and I'm really rooting for the guy. I think Gustavo's an awesome dude, and I think he's a tough customer. And he's been in there with some tough guys as of recently. That was a tough loss he took against Yanez. Would love to see him bounce back, get a victory over Alateng here. So I'm rolling with Lopez. We got two very talented fighters squaring off here. Impa Kasangane taking on Carlston Harris. Now keep this in mind when you look at this fight. A lot of you guys are probably more familiar with Impa here compared to Carlston, but Carlston's going to have double the amount of professional fight experience. He's had 20 professional fights compared to Impa's 10. Although we've seen Impa fighting on Dana White's Contender Series and starting to string off a lot of UFC fights, and we've only seen Carlston fight in there one time. Don't underestimate the experience that Carlston brings with him inside the octagon. Carlston, a guy that I've been quite impressed with breaking down his tape. I like his ability to get the fight down to the mat. I like his inside leg trips against the cage. Not necessarily a typical type of wrestler, not shooting doubles and singles, but a guy that in the clinch can really rip you down to the mat, and he's pretty relentless there with the chain takedowns, and obviously has abilities to submit you. We saw him in his UFC debut pulling off a beautiful anaconda choke against Christian Aguilera, and put him out. As you see Aguilera sleeping there in the back. I mean, that was a beautiful UFC debut, no octagon jitters, and again, this is a guy that has experience. Impa, a guy that I've been very impressed with ever since getting the victory on Dana White's Contender Series. This guy has a granite chin, I've said it before the Buckley fight, and I'll say it after. The shot that he got hit with against Buckley was on the button, and it is what it is. That's taken almost anybody out, pretty much anybody. The only guys that are maybe surviving that, comment below. Who's surviving that kick? Who's surviving who's surviving that Buckley kick? Sweet chin music to the chin. Maybe there's a couple guys. You guys know who I'm talking about. There's a couple of guys that have a chin made like steel. We'll throw those in the comment section, but I still stand behind his chin. And this is a guy in Impa that could really walk through a lot of your attacks and just start to implement his game plan on you and start to break you down. He's a pressure fighter. I like the way he pushes guys up against the cage and leans on them and smashes them up there, and will try to rip you down against the cage as well. Not necessarily looking for a submission, more so looking to just crack your face up, looking to smash you there. And he has some good power. We really saw him break down Sasha Palatnikov, and yes, he did pull off that rear naked choke there, but that wasn't necessarily a fight where he was working some wizardry with his jiu-jitsu. That was a fight that he was really hurting Sasha. He was putting it on Sasha, and Sasha kind of wilted over there. No shade at Sasha, big fan of Sasha's, but that was a tough fight for him there, and he kind of broke. And it's understandable because Impa brings the heat with him, man. He's a bulldozer. He's a very, very thick dude, very stout dude. 5'11" with the 75-inch reach. Carlson's gonna have a 1-inch reach advantage. He's a foot taller, but I think that Impa will be the more stout guy, the thicker guy. He's very durable. Like I said, I expect him to take all the attacks that Carlson throws and to continuously walk forward. Impa getting in some work over here at Wagner Rocha Martial Arts. It's funny, this guy over here, Junior Buscape, however you want to say that, Junior Buscape. I see this guy at the local LA Fitness all the time, and this guy is in there at all times. So it's pretty funny. He's getting in some work with him over here. I'm assuming this is over in South Florida. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know if he's just visiting over there, but this guy's in South Florida, and he is always pounding the weights out. Guy that we've seen fight over in PFL, I believe. Just talking some MMA talk over here, but getting in work with all types of top level talent. So that he's continuing to grow his skill set, and a guy that really has natural abilities. And the more and more he's in the gym refining those skills, he's going to be a problem for the division. And you see him over here with Brendan Allen, who just got a victory. Definitely associating himself with top level talent, and over here at Sanford MMA. So like I said, over in South Florida. So I guess that Wagner Rocha Fitness is over here in South Florida somewhere as well. So getting in great work in South Florida. I like Impa here. I like Impa to win the fight. I think that Carlston is a very, very tough opponent, but I think that Impa is going to start to string off some victories here in the division, and I think that we're going to be talking about him for quite some time. Carlston does have skills in the feet as well. Expect Carlston to land some shots. Impa should be able to eat those up, walk through it, put out a little bit more volume, and maybe start to break Harris down. It's a very, very good fight. We take a look at the live line, and Impa is a slight favorite, right around -130 to the comeback on Harris, right around +110. Excellent fight. I'm going to side with Impa. I've liked what I've seen from him. The guy is a beast. Great matchup, though. All right, in the next fight, we got a UFC newcomer entering the flyweight division of the UFC. We got Ariane Blanchfield taking on Sarah Alpar. This is a good, welcoming fight for Ariane. These fighters are a little bit different here. Ariane only 22 years old. Sarah 30 years old, really in the prime of her career, but she kind of looks and fights like she's 36. She's very stiff in there. She is not the most physically fit type of fighter. I mean, she's okay. She does what she does. We saw her on Dana White's Contender Series and in a fight against Shayna Young, where she went through some early adversity, but she showed that she's very, very tough in there. And she was able to use her grappling to win that fight. So she does have grappling abilities. She's heavy in the clinch, heavy with the wrestling. She'll like to lean on you, try to get on top of you. And if you're not capable on the mat, she definitely will sit down there and control you for 15 minutes and take a victory on you. Ariane Blanchfield, though, is a girl, very young still, but a girl that's been putting in a lot of work with her jiu-jitsu game. You know, from the research I've been able to pull up, man, this girl is definitely on her P's and Q's with her jiu-jitsu. And you know, I've seen some flashes of her on the feet as well. She had one very nice victory um, against Victoria Leonardo, a girl that is fighting in the UFC, a girl we just saw fight recently, and she landed a beautiful head kick in that fight. So yes, it's not nearly as polished as it's going to need to be down the line, but in a UFC debut fight against Sarah Alpar, I think the striking is plenty where it needs to be. I expect her to have the edge there, and Sarah Alpar a little bit more stiff on the feet. I think that Blanchfield should take this fight as making her debut. I think that she should pull through here, and she is about a 3-1 favorite here, right around that minus 300 range. It's understandable. I edge her on the feet, and I think that her jiu-jitsu game is going to be skillful enough to handle business there against the very stiff and stiff, but it's okay. It works for Alper against certain opponents, but I don't think it's going to be enough to take out Blanchfield here. Not necessarily a fight that I think you guys should be licking your chops with, especially where the line is. So maybe you're looking more so at the dog in this fight here. You guys know how these types of fights play out at times. They play out close, so be careful there. We'll see how that fight goes, but I like the UFC newcomer, cold-blooded Erin Blanchfield to win the fight. We got an interesting matchup here taking place in the bantamweight division. Montel Jackson versus Jp Baze. Montel is going to be very much so the bigger fighter. Montel Jackson, a guy that has already a freakish reach for the division, a guy that has freakish size hands. You guys know about that whole story. He has the same size hands as Francis Ngannou. But JP is a guy that's fought in the flyweight division, so very interested to see how these guys look at the weigh-ins when they're squaring off and how they look next to each other in the octagon. JP is a guy that's fought, like I said, in the flyweight division. He has a 5-inch height disadvantage here, about an 8.5 reach disadvantage. That's a very interesting aspect to this fight. But there's also another very interesting aspect to this fight. And Montel Jackson is a guy, as of recently, that he took a loss against Brett Johns. That was a fight where Brett was able to hold him against the cage for the entire fight, and Jackson had no answer for it. Jackson had a moment in that fight where he did land a big shot, and he hurt Johns. But once Johns was able to get through that little bit of adversity, was able to put him right against the cage again, and he was able to win that fight. And Jackson was a major favorite there. Does Jp Baze have the strength and the wrestling to hold Jackson against the cage for 15 minutes? I think that's definitely the route that Baze should be going in this fight. If I was JP's coach, I would strictly be sharpening up the wrestling game and that clinch game, pushing up Jackson against the cage and try to sneak out with a division here. Because if he doesn't do that and he looks to sit in the middle of the octagon, strike, and just make this an overall type of MMA fight, I think he's going to be facing some real adversity in this fight. There's just some things going against him. I think that Jackson has the ability to hurt him bad. I mean, we saw Bruno Silva, the Bulldog. I forget if his nickname's the Bulldog or the Pitbull, but he fights like a Bulldog. And, he was able to hurt JP on the feet early in that fight. I don't see any reason why Montel Jackson can't get the finish on JP here as well, unless JP just continuously closes the distance and looks to work his wrestling. Keep in mind, you see his Instagram tag, wrestling_JP. JP is a very talented wrestler. This is a guy that's his strong suit. That's his background. He's been wrestling since a very young age over in South Africa. And I just think that he's undersized here. Maybe, fighting in the bantamweight division, he could put on some more muscle. He doesn't have to worry about the weight cut as much and whatnot. And he can keep up, the pace the entire fight. And maybe he could hold Montel against that cage and try to eke out a decision. That's the route he needs to go. I don't see it happening. I think that he'll even play with fire a little bit. He'll be willing to play with fire. I think that Jackson will hurt him in the middle of the octagon. And even if Baze wants to try to just wrestle him the entire time and hold him against the cage, I think that he's going to have a tough time doing that as well, because obviously Montel Jackson's been working on that particular part of his game after taking that loss to Brett Johns. Jackson got a finish against Jesse Strader in his last fight. I believe Jesse Strader took that fight on short notice, I believe. Either way, Strader is not some household name. So we'll see if Montel Jackson can really live up to the potential that a lot of people felt that he had not too long ago. I think that he gets it done. We take a look at the live line. Seems like a lot of people agree with me as Montel Jackson is skyrocketing almost up to a minus 600 on some books. So big favorite here. Just keep in mind if Jp Baze is able to pull off a similar type of style in this fight that Brett Johns was able to pull off on Jackson, it may turn out to be a very stressful fight for you if you have Jackson up in a parlay. But I favor Jackson to even get a finish or really to put some damage on Baze here, which is why I got Montel Jackson to win the fight there. In the next fight, we got Dakota Bush taking on Zhu Hong. Dakota Bush, in his UFC debut, had a tough fight against Austin Hubert. Really looked to have some issues with his gas tank in there. I don't know if that was due to some octagon jitters, an adrenaline dump, but he was breathing heavy in that second round, if you guys remember. And obviously, the last person you really want to be breathing heavily against is Austin Hubert. In a fight, Austin has great cardio, and obviously that's why he did not fare well in that fight. Zhu lost his UFC debut against Rodrigo Vargas. Had some moments where he looked good in that fight. Also definitely had some moments where he did not look good. Keep in mind, he's only 21 years old. This kid already has 21 professional fights. Of course, not against top-level competition, but you got to love the professional experience and just the amount of fights that this guy's getting in at a young age. This guy is a dangerous fighter. You take a look at his resume, and Zhu has all types of finishes. This guy loves to go in there and finish the fight. KO, arm triangle choke, KO, rear naked choke, guillotine. Stopping guys, retirement. Guys are not even able to continue fighting. Again, lower level competition. You see a decent name here, Marcio Andrade, a decent resume, but Barbosa. But for the most part, a lot of these Asian fighters that he was fighting, a little bit of a padded record. But again, I like the experience that he's getting, and he has flashes where he looks to be like a dangerous fighter. I think this guy has potential at the age that he's at. I'm interested to see what he looks like in the near future. Obviously, like I said, his UFC debut did not go well for him. Rodrigo Vargas was able to get his hand raised. Dakota Bush, though, like I said, questions with the cardio. Is he going to look better there? If this fight looks similar to Bush's first fight, I think that Zhu can really take over this fight in the second and third round. I think that he'll have the volume with his striking, and I like his striking. I like what I've seen from him at times. He's aggressive. The striking's diverse. And I don't know. Dakota Bush, keep in mind also, Dakota Bush is a guy that has been wrestling since he's a young kid, so has that wrestling background. But, we saw him getting taken down in his UFC debut. We saw him getting put on his butt, put on his back. Of course, he was gassed out. And when you're gassed out, it's kind of hard to stop takedowns. I'm not necessarily sure if Zhu's going to look to wrestle him there. It's funny because if you kind of analyze it from that aspect, you think of a Chinese fighter compared to a Chinese fighter that has more of a striking type background compared to a guy in Dakota that's been wrestling since he's a kid. You would think the American guy would have much of an advantage, but I've seen flashes of Zhu with the grappling as well. He's had some moments where he's taking guys down and whatnot. And if Bush is going to get tired in there, I could see Zhu taking him down as well. It's a close fight, but I'm going to go with the Chinese fighter Zhu here. And another fight that is basically a pick'em right around that even with the minus 120 on the comeback. And I'm going to go with the slight dog once again in these close fights. I'm going to take Zhu Rong, the Chinese fighter. I think that he bounces back with the victory here. This is a guy that's been putting on some very entertaining fights before his UFC debut. I think he can take it back to that avenue. Especially down the line. I think this is a guy that will be around one way or another down the line 4 or 5 years. And this is a guy that China will be able to root on, and I think he'll do some damage in the octagon. It still has to be seen. We'll see if he can do that, but I think there's some potential for that to be the case, and I'll take him to win the fight. In the next fight, in the bantamweight division, we got Nate Maness taking on Tony Gravely. It's a good fight here. Both these guys, very, very talented prospects. Tony, a guy more so that you guys know I've been backing for some time. I've been very high on him. Tony Gravely, a career martial artist, a second-generation martial artist. His dad was I believe, some type of Taekwondo instructor or whatnot. He's a black belt in Taekwondo, is Tony, but he's also a guy that's wrestled his entire life, a guy that has collegiate wrestling experience, and a guy that's been bunkering down over at American Top Team, really putting in the work with some of the most talented fighters and the most talented coaches in the game. So you got to love that from him. Looked phenomenal in his last fight against Anthony Burchek. Got the finish there, a devastating finish. Has power in his hands, a well-rounded fighter. The one setback that he did have was against Brett Johns. We talked about Brett Johns, an underrated grappler who's now over in Bellator. That was a fight where the grappling exchanges were relentless, and eventually Brett Johns was able to get the better of him, in those grappling situations and pulled off the rear naked choke. But a great learning experience for Gravely, and now he goes in here against Nate Maness, a guy that's 13-1 and who's been looking very, very good since making his UFC debut. He's a little bit of a slow starter, so you would like to see Tony really push the gas pedal in early in this fight. In the Johnny Munoz fight, Munoz was able to get a takedown and look good in the first round, but eventually Nate starts to get that momentum, and he took that fight over. And then in his last fight, he got the finish on Luke Sanders, even showing some wrinkles in his game with the rear naked choke. But Nate is a guy that really, really favors his boxing. He has some good hands, and so does Tony. So I'm really excited to see how they fare in those boxing type exchanges. Tony has way more professional experience here at 27 professional fights to Nate's 14 professional fights. Tony's going to have a 3-inch reach disadvantage, which is not anything new for him. Kind of tends to be the undersized fighter. 5-inch height disadvantage here. That's going to be the case with Tony in a lot of these fights. I don't know if he's ever going to look to drop down in weight. I don't think that he really needs to. He's doing work. But he's not necessarily the biggest guy in the division. And I'm going to take Tony to win this fight. I like Tony, the career martial artist, a guy that's very, very polished in a lot of different avenues. I like Tony to win the fight. And let's take a look at the live line right now. Tony is right around a minus 190 favorite, which is pretty typical, man. He's been a favorite in pretty much all his fights. Except against Brett Johns, excuse me. So this will be his last two fights. He was the favorite, and then you have to jump back to the Dana White's Contender Series fight against Ray Rodriguez, where he was a big favorite. I think he pulls it off there. So yeah, I'm gonna roll with Tony. Just a very, very well-rounded, dangerous fighter. I'll take him to win the fight there. In the next fight, we got Pannie Kianzad taking on Raquel Pennington. Two talented strikers here. A little bit of different styles, but both girls can definitely get it done on the feet. Raquel Pennington's been around the block for so long now. It's crazy. You think back to the first time she fought Holly Holm, welcoming Holly to the UFC. And she really gave Holly a run for her money in that fight. A lot of people were confused. Everybody was so high on Holly, they expected her to run through Rocky. Rocky was able to clinch up and make that a tough fight. You guys know Rocky has good boxing. She's very strong. Pannie, a girl that is very light on her feet, very diverse with her striking, good kicks, working very accurate with her punches. And it's great to see that she's working on her wrestling here, because if she wants to really, stay at the top of this division or reach the top of this division, she's got to continuously round out her game against some of the more talented grapplers. And she's capable there, but like I said, that's not her strong suit. So great to see her working on that. I love Pannie striking. And this has all the makings to be a very, very exciting fight. Both girls are pretty much identical here. Rocky's going to have a 1.5 reach advantage, but same height here. Rocky's going to look to make this more of a dirty fight. She's going to look to close the distance a little bit more, hang on Pannie, sit in the clinch, work dirty boxing, where I think Pannie will like to use her footwork and work the leg kicks, work the accurate long-range boxing shots, long-range punches, and try to pick Rocky apart. Pannie with a 4-fight win streak behind her right here. really, really styling on some of these girls too. Got some nice names on the resume. Rocky, more so fighting big name fighters. Lost to Holly Holm in the rematch. Lost to Jermaine Durandamy. Lost to Amanda Nunes. So getting those big name fights. She did take out Irene Aldana, which Irene's really been putting it together. Very, very dangerous fighter in the division. It's a close fight though. And then took out Marion Renaud, who's since retired. I'm gonna take Pannie to win this fight. I'm gonna take the little bit more talented, a little bit more athletic type of fighter in Pannie. I like what she's got going on. She's 29 years old, a little bit more so in the prime of her career, and I think that she can get this fight done. I do. I don't think that she's hit her peak here. She's still cruising to the prime of her career. A girl we saw grow up from the Ultimate Fighter. She's growing up in the octagon. I think that she keeps the momentum going here, and I like Pannie to win the fight. Take a look at the live line. Pannie is another one of those fights. It's funny. I'm attacking all those picks there on these fighters that are just slight dogs, but these fights really can go any way. So I'm sure a lot of you guys are, for the most part, the majority is split. Obviously, split down the middle with these fights. Very, very close lines. I'll take Pannie to win the fight. Last fight of the preliminaries before we get into the main card. Tafon and Nchukwi taking on Mike Rodriguez. Tafon, the Don, if you guys remember, this is a guy that really, really made a statement on Dana White's Contender Series with the nasty head kick victory over Al Matavo. Got the knockout there. Won his UFC debut against Jamie Pickett. Definitely a very, very technical striker. That is his bread and butter. That's his background. He's working on his overall game, but still has a lot of work to do. As we saw, Jun Young Park was able to wrestle him down and pull off the victory against him in that fight. So definitely showed that he does have some holes in his game. Is Mike Rodriguez the type of guy that's going to go in there and wrestle him down and really wear on him with the grappling game? I don't know if I necessarily see that. I mean, Rodriguez does have some skills down there, but Rodriguez is a guy that's a guy that really loves to strike. He's a very rangy striker. He likes to reach his hands out there, his long reach. He likes to put his hands on you and get a gauge of his distance, and likes to drop elbows and left straights. He likes to work the low kick game as well. I mean, this guy really does like his striking. I think stylistically, this has all the makings to stay on the feet. And if that's the case, I'm going to go with the more technical and more experienced striker in Tafon and Nchukwi, a guy that does have kickboxing experience, a guy that's very, very talented over there. He's been putting in work with Team Lloyd Irvin, which I do like, and he's going to have a little bit of a reach disadvantage. But like I said, Mike Rodriguez is just a guy that has a ridiculous reach, 82.5 inches. He's a taller guy. I don't think that would be a problem at all. Tafon, a lot of striking experience. It won't be nothing new to him to battle a guy in the feet that's a little bit rangier and longer than him. Great footwork, and I like Tafon to bounce back with the victory here, and to get a victory on Mike Rodriguez. Mike Rodriguez, as of recently, also showing he has holes in his grappling game. Lost to Danilo Marquez there with a rear naked choke. The Ed Herman fight, of course. What a horrible way to lose. He had the stoppage, but it was a bad decision on the ref, and then the fight continued. And then Ed Herman ended up pulling off the Kimura, but Rodriguez kind of gassed out in that fight as well, so keep an eye on that maybe. But I like Nchukwi. And we take a look at the live line. Very slight favorite, so for the first time on the card, I'm going to take that slight favorite. I'm going to side with him on this side here. Tafon Dadon. I like him to be the more refined, polished striker in a fight that I expect to take place on the feet. So that's my pick there. Hey, you guys, quick announcement. Some of you guys may remember I put out the preliminary parts of putting together a YouTube channel called Sports Betting Weekly, which is a channel that is based around what the name says, sports betting. Not just MMA, but in regards to NFL bets, college football bets, basketball, hockey, any type of sport-related bet, baseball, of course. So if you guys are interested in betting on other types of sports besides just MMA, which, of course, MMA is, of course, the best sport and our favorite sport to bet on and favorite sport to watch. But for those of you guys that also enjoy watching other sports, I highly recommend that you guys subscribe to my channel, as I'm going to be putting out almost daily videos. They'll be a little bit quicker, but I will have daily videos in regards to specific games that I am targeting betting wise. I'm going to be giving out a lot of free bets on the channel, and I will also be giving out occasional free MMA plays as well, which I'll let you guys know here when I do that. But please, if you guys could, go over, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to have the link below in the description of this video, so you guys will be able to access the channel easier. And if you guys can please help me out, go over, subscribe to the channel. It'd mean a lot to me. And I promise you guys, you're going to be seeing some really, really good content coming from that channel. I've been working on a lot of small things behind the scenes here recently, and you're going to see that all unravel here in the next week and moving on down the line. So thank you guys. I appreciate you guys helping me out here. Thank you. All right, you guys know what time it is. It's a main card time, and who better to kick off the main card than a guy like Joaquin Buckley, who's going to be taking on Antônio Arroyo. Great stylistic matchup here too. Both these guys, they love to strike. I think this has all the makings of being a fight that takes place in the feet and ends up delivering as an entertaining fight. Buckley, man, this guy Buckley, it's funny. I remember as he made his UFC debut, he was a guy that was really just thrown in there. You know, not much was expected of him. And, you know, he took that loss to Kevin Holland, took that fight on short notice. But before he got caught with that knockout, we saw some flashes of him on the feet. We saw the aggressiveness of him on the feet, and there was some potential with him. You know, in his next fight, he proved that, and he put a feather in his cap that's so big that you could see it from down the block. You know, this is a guy that no matter how his career goes from this point moving forward, everyone's going to always remember Joaquin Buckley. The knockout that he had on Impa was without a doubt one of the nastiest knockouts we've ever seen. You know the look on Impa's face. I mean, this is just such an iconic image right here. As we've seen Impa in all types of memes and funny videos on YouTube looking like this. It was just such a beautiful knockout. But you know what, man? Buckley, I think this is a guy that wants more from his career just than to be known for a guy that had that one spectacular knockout. You know, he had a beautiful knockout against Jordan Wright in the fight after that, but did take a nasty knockout loss himself against Alessio De Chirico in his last fight. So he needs to put the train back on the tracks. He needs to right the ship here. He wants to go out here and get a big victory over Antônio Arroyo. He wants to prove that he's a fighter that's going to be hanging around in the UFC for some time to go, and a guy that could be a real threat in the division. As I stated, this is a perfect stylistic match for entertainment purposes. These guys are going to engage in the feet. Antônio Arroyo is a guy that has some nasty kicks. He's a nasty striker himself. He's been a little bit down on his luck as of recently. He took that loss to Darren Wynn, but that was a fight where he just did not have an answer with the takedown defense in that fight. He had some moments where he flashed on the feet, but he definitely has to work on his takedown defense, because if Wynn was able to do that to him, was very, very undersized. And I get it. I know that Wynn has good wrestling credentials and he grinds over there at AKA, but he was so undersized. You would expect Arroyo would be able to keep that fight at bay, keep the distance there, keep the range, and be able to see those takedowns coming in. And he absolutely looked like a fish out of water there. I don't know. Maybe Buckley throws in a couple wrestling attempts there. Maybe he works some ground and pound. Maybe he shows different elements in his game. That would be impressive if he did that. You know, like I said, if he wants to be a guy that's going to be hanging around the division for a long time, you don't want to just go out there always trying to knock your opponent out in the feet. Show that you have different skill sets and you're able to use your fighter IQ to go in there continuously pulling off victories. Arroyo has very questionable wrestling and takedown defense. Why not shoot some wrestling attempts there? I don't know if New Manza, Joaquin Buckley, is going to do that necessarily. In fact, I don't really think that he will. I do think this is going to be a fight that takes place in the feet, but keep an eye out for that possibility. On the feet, I love Buckley's hands. Arroyo will have a little bit of an edge with the low kicks, but we've seen Buckley also throw some nasty spinning type kicks to the head and very diverse types of strikes. I like Buckley to win this fight. I like Buckley to be the little bit more of the aggressive fighter here, and just a fighter that pulls through in this fight. I think that he handles business. Arroyo, like I said, just really, really looked questionable in that Duran win fight, and the Andre Muniz fight, which Muniz is definitely proven to be a tough customer with his grappling and whatnot, but didn't really look that good there as well. Let me take a look at the live line here. Buckley is right around a 2-1 favorite, creeping up to that minus 225 range. That there is some danger in that fight, so be careful with taking a line like that. We just saw Buckley get knocked out, by De Chirico. Antonio Arroyo will be throwing some limbs at Buckley's head. So Buckley is a guy that his chin has been tested before. It's been hurt. We've seen, like I said, Holland finished him there. De Chirico finished him. There's no reason why he can't be finished in a fight here. So just keep that in mind as well. Arroyo is a nasty striker. I like Buckley to win this fight with the fact that I think that he'll be a little bit more aggressive. He'll have that advantage with the hands, and maybe he mixes in some wrestling. We'll see. But a closer fight than the line really shows, in my opinion. Not really crazy about that line. But we'll see how that fight goes. Now, this next fight. This is an interesting fight for me here. You guys know I always support my Greek fighters. And as of recently, both of my favorite Greek fighters got matched up with some tough competition. Christos Giagos fighting Arman Tsarukyan. You guys know how high I am on Arman Tsarukyan, so this is a tough one for Christos here. Also, if you guys didn't see the news, Andreas Michailidis is fighting. Excuse me, guys, name slipping my mind right now. Somebody hit it up in the comment section. Pajeda, right? I believe his last name is Pajeda. The very nasty striker, kickboxing fighter who knocked out Israel Adesanya, who since made his MMA debut, and he's starting to look to make a big name for himself in the MMA world, and he's making his UFC debut against Andreas Michailidis. So I'm very excited for that matchup as well. But that's a tough matchup for Andreas as well, because the newcomer, the kickboxer there is a guy that's going to be as talented on the feet as pretty much anybody in the UFC right away. So as he looks to groom his overall game, he's going to be a very dangerous fighter. And I'm sorry, I want to pull him up real quick. But I'll throw it in the comment section. But I believe his name is Pajeda. Somebody hit that up in the comment section. You guys all know who I'm talking about. He just fought recently, actually. So some tough fights there. But Christos Giagos has his hands full with Arman Tsarukyan. Arman Tsarukyan, a guy that made his UFC debut against Islam Makhachev at the age of 22 years old, and a guy that actually made it a closely contested matchup in the grappling department as well, which Islam is a guy that goes out there and dominates everybody on the mat. Arman was hanging in there, and then Arman's had some spots where he's absolutely shined on the feet. Was it the Davi Ramos fight? Looked amazing on the feet. Let's see what else. Yeah, it was the Davi Ramos fight was definitely the fight where he looked the most polished on the feet, and we really saw the potential for him there. He's been working on his Muay Thai over at Tiger Muay Thai. Had a nice victory over Matt Favola. The OAM fight was a fight. It was a little bit of a lackluster performance for him. I think he just kind of was cruising in that fight, but still, got the job done. And now he's only 24 years old. He's about to be 25. The sky is not the limit for this kid. He can go way past the sky, as I always like to say. So much potential for him. And this is a good fight for him. Christos Giagos, a fighter that's really been putting it together. 2 big victories in a row. Dominated Carlton Manus, and then had a beautiful submission choke against Sean Soriano. Faced some early adversity in that fight. Got wobbled, but he hung tough, and then he ended up exploiting Sean Soriano's grappling and was able to sub him there. I just don't see how Christos is going to do that to Arman. Arman is just so polished, as we talked about. I think this is just such a tough fight for Christos. Christos is an amazing athlete. He's definitely going to be hanging around in the UFC for time to come. He's going to be getting victories left and right, but I just don't see him pulling off a victory against Arman Tsarukyan here. Arman is just, he's just a more polished, better overall fighter here. I gotta call it for what it is. You guys know I'm gonna be rooting on my boy Giagos here. Giagos, if you're listening, I'm hoping you win this fight. I just, the line is high for a reason. This guy Arman is just a very, very talented fighter. If Christos loses this fight, there's no shame in it. He'll come back to the drawing board. He'll go back to the drawing board. He'll come back to the octagon, and he'll get a victory in his next fight. I just don't see him getting his hand raised in a fight against Arman Tsarukyan, who is just an absolute stud of a fighter. Christos Giagos, a guy that we've had the pleasure of chatting it up with twice. We've done 2 interviews with him, 2 shows with him. MMA Live Discussion episode 6 and another one up in the 20s. So a guy that I will hopefully be interviewing again in the future. Hopefully he doesn't get upset that I didn't pick him in this fight. I know he follows me on Instagram and he'll see my official pick that will be against him. He always likes my picks. But listen, guys, you guys know how it goes, man. I always got to keep it real with you guys on my picks, and I just think this is a tough fight for Giagos. Arman will be crisper and more technical with his striking. I give him the edge with the grappling. Although Christos, his wrestling is very much underrated, and he does have submission skills. The way that I see Giagos possibly pulling this fight off is if he makes it a dirty brawl and is able to hurt Arman somehow, and maybe ends up pulling off some type of submission, or he wobbles him and gets the finish there, or maybe just being a little bit more of an aggressive fighter, putting out more volume. I just don't see it, though. The line, as I said, very high. It's creeping up to that 800 range for Arman Tsarukyan. Big favorite here. Just keep in mind that Giagos is a very talented fighter as well. Anytime you're hitting up a minus 800 line against a guy in Giagos that's a very talented fighter that's going to be fighting for your money if you're betting him, he'll be in there. He's a live dog at that line, but a fight that I would want nothing to do with. But again, he's a major dog. We're talking about almost plus 600 range. You're getting a talented fighter at that line. I would still stay away from it, though. I just don't see it happening for him, all right? So I'm rambling a little bit here, but, Arman Tsarukyan is definitely the pick there. All right, the next fight, we got a UFC newcomer. Fight taking place in the flyweight division. Mandy Böhm taking on Ariane Lipski. We got the UFC newcomer fighting out of Germany. Undefeated, 7-0. Rangy for the division. Tough customer. Been breaking out tape on her over the last week. And a girl that, although she does like her striking, she's been showing some flashes of grappling. I mean, if you're not up to par there, she will rip you down to the mat. She'll sit in your half guard, and she'll rain down shots. I mean, this is a girl she naturally has some ability with her grappling, although it definitely needs to be refined. Ariane Lipski, a girl that we've seen flashes of submission skills. We saw her pull off that beautiful knee bar against Luana Carolina, but also we saw her get mopped by Antonina Shevchenko, which that's a major red flag because Shevchenko is a girl that I really believe has very below average grappling. And a lot of people thought maybe at that time that she worked on her grappling. Maybe I was one of them too after that fight. I'm like, wow, she's starting to iron out her entire game. That was not the case because we've seen her since regress right back to the form that she's shown. So that really just showed some holes or a major hole in Lipski's game. I think that Lipski can be ripped down to the mat and dominated there. She lost her last 2 fights. Montana De La Rosa was also able to work the ground and pound. Does this girl, Mandy, have the ability to get this fight down to the mat, avoid some type of flashy submission, and then is she able to work to her grappling game, her ground and pound? Mandy's a girl that is diverse in the feet. She has abilities there too. She's a little bit slower there, though. Her striking is a little bit slow paced. Those types of fighters that are kind of rangy, but they don't have that quick twitch skill with their striking, but they're pushing the action on you. They put a high volume out, and they're rangy. She'll throw the front kicks. She really likes to throw the front kicks there. She's rangy with her punches, as you see there. This is a good fight here. I definitely think this fight can go either way. I'm going to edge the UFC newcomer. I want to see what this girl Mandy's about, making her UFC debut. And I'm going to edge her to win with the possibility that she could use her grappling and get on top and exploit Lipski's below average grappling, below average wrestling, etc. Ariane Lipski is a slight favorite. Another one of those fights right there, but that slight favorite on Lipski, but I'm picking the dog at the even odds, the slight dog. I'm taking the UFC newcomer, and let's see what Mandy's about, because I've watched fights with Mandy, her first professional fight, fights in the very beginning of her career, and she was still albeit against very low level competition, she was going in there and she was a natural grappler. She's a natural grappler in the sense, those girls that just know how to close the distance, get their opponent down and rip them down. Not even so much that it was so technical. Some girls just know how to favor that grappling, and they know how to go in there and rip girls down, where some girls just don't have that. And I'm expecting her to have continuously worked on that and refined the technique, and I think that she can get this fight down to the mat. And she could also hang on the feet as well. Although I do kind of edge Lipski with the speed and whatnot on the feet, but I think it'll be close there. I like Mandy to win the fight there. All right, now in this next fight, we did have a change of an opponent. Jim Miller did pull out here. We have Cameron VanCamp stepping in, taking on Nikolas Motta. Nikolas Motta, a guy that really, really brought the fight on Dana White's Contender Series when he fought. Take a look at all these faces. These are all fighters that were signed to the UFC from Dana White's Contender Series, which is very, very impressive. Now, or maybe, I don't know if they were all signed, or maybe the ones that are lit up, are the ones that have been signed, let's see if we can find Motta. Where is Waldo? I think, is this him right here? I think this is him right here. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I think that's him. Yep. And he had a fight that was very, very entertaining on the show. He fought a very tough customer in Joseph Lowry. Great fight. Nikolas showed the aggressiveness and the accuracy in his hands. This is a guy that he will stand on the feet. He'll exchange with you. He'll land some heavy shots, and he'll string his shots together. He'll throw 6-7 punch combinations on you, which I love to see. I love fighters that throw combinations like that. He's a decently well-rounded fighter. 28 years old, a great age, cruising into the prime of his career. He's going to have a 70-inch reach. I expect Cameron to have the reach advantage here, even though we don't have his reach. I expect him to be the more rangy fighter. And I'm kind of interested to see, is this fight taking place at 155? Is Cameron going to make weight? I know Cameron's a guy that's fought in the welterweight division. He's a very, very big fighter. He's 6'1". He's also 28 years old. But breaking down tape on him, he's a guy that's just very rangy. He's a big dude. So is he making this weight cut now? We're going to see how he looks in there. I want to see how he looks at the weigh-ins. Keep an eye on that for that Friday to see how he looks there. I seen I was watching this fight against this guy Cyan. Cyan was very, very undersized. I mean, so some low-level competition type fights. Craig Eckelberg, a guy we know, got the armbar there. VanCamp definitely has some submission abilities. He's very slow and laboring on the feet. Okay, his striking looks very, very reminiscent to the last fighter we just talked about, Böhm. What was her name? The German newcomer. That same type of style. They'll walk forward. They'll hit you with the front kicks. They're rangy. They're kind of long, but it's slow. And I would be expecting Motta to counter those kicks with a rain of hooks. I would expect Motta to counter those kicks with just a nice 4 or 5 punch combination where I think he could really do some damage on VanCamp there. This is a questionable loss too. Bobby Volker, losing to him not too long ago, 2 years ago. Bobby's way up there in age. We've seen him hanging around in the Bellator scene and whatnot. He's up in his 40s. Ex-UFC fighter, but still has not looked that good as of recently. So that's a questionable loss there. I think that Motta has more potential. I'm taking Motta to win the fight. And right now, we don't have a line. I don't have a line on that fight here as I'm filming this on a Saturday. We'll see what the line ends up being. I like Motta. I'm just throwing that out there. Maybe Motta is like a -175. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I think that Motta should be the favorite. Let's see where that line's at. Maybe I'm underestimating VanCamp, but that's where I see it. And you could pull up. This was that Cyan fight. You could pull up that VanCamp fight versus Cyan. You could see what kind of fighter he is. Threw a flying knee in that fight. Had some moments. But I think that Motta's quicker in there. I like Motta to win the fight. Co-main event time. Very, very excited for this fight. Ian Cutelaba, one of my favorite fighters in the game. As you guys saw, I was showing some love to him on my Instagram, put a little funny story for him. But I love the energy this guy brings. This guy goes in there to destroy you, to take you out. He looks to get inside your head at the weigh-ins. I love it. I love fighters that fight like that. I know it's not for everybody. I know some of you guys will disagree with me. That's the type of guy that I am. I love that type of energy. I like guys that don't want to shake hands at the weigh-ins. They don't want to touch gloves before the fight. I like guys that want to go out there and decapitate you beforehand. When it's all said and done, you could show the respect then. You guys can squash it then. But before the fight, I want it to be nasty. And that's what Cutelaba is all about. You saw him at the weigh-ins. You see him getting in Khalil Roundtree's face, sucking the soul out of him. Oh, man, that didn't sound too good, but you guys catch my drift. Sucking the soul out of him. I say that the way he got up in his face, Khalil Roundtree backing up. And, Khalil Roundtree, he really wasn't himself in that fight. I believe the mental game that Cutelaba brings with him inside the octagon helps him become a better fighter. Yes, he has all the skills. He could wrestle. He has power. But I think that the mental edge helps him excel even a little bit more so in his fights. This guy is not scared of nobody. You see him going in there looking to take out guys like Magomed and Ankalaev, although it didn't go his way in those two fights, but you saw the energy he brought. You know that he's going to be looking to get in the head of Devin Clark at the weigh-ins. He's going to be looking to just break him in there, and he over excels at times with that. Now, again, these two last losses to Ankalaev, yes, okay, he lost both of them. Even the first one, forget about the early stoppage. Ankalaev is possibly a future champion. Broke Khalil Roundtree before that. Lost to Glover Teixeira, a guy that's going to be fighting for the belt here in the near future, who had so much more experience. And then the last fight looked amazing in the first round, but did kind of gas out against Dustin Jacoby. You got to keep an eye on his cardio at times. He really brings the fight early and does start to wilt at times in his fights. That could be a problem here because Devin Clark is a guy that likes to hang around and wear on you. We saw that in the Alonzo Menafield fight. He's a guy that throws sloppy hooks, but don't get it twisted. If one of them land, he could definitely hurt you. Shouldn't be too much of an issue, though. Cutelaba has a granite chin, and it shouldn't be a problem there. But if one of those does hit, they're low percentage shots. If they do hit, it could cause problems. But Clark will look to hang around in this fight. He'll look to hang on Cutelaba's legs, push him up against the cage. He'll look to try to take over the fight in the later rounds. Cutelaba's looking to be in phenomenal shape, though. I think that he would have went back and really worked on his cardio after the way that he kind of gassed a little bit in his last fight. But also keep in mind, he had a very, very high pace in that first round, so he didn't necessarily just gas out. He actually put a lot of volume out in that first round, so it's going to happen to some guys. These are big dudes, and you see him putting that work in here. I like Cutelaba to win this fight. Cutelaba has the power in his hands. He has wrestling abilities as well. I think he could definitely hang with the wrestling, in the wrestling department with Devin Clark here. You guys know the avenue for Clark to win the fight. Try to take over in the later rounds, hang on him. And I like Cutelaba here. I'm going to be rooting him on. And again, one of my favorite fighters in the game. I really want to see him start to string off some victories and engage his name into the big talks of the division down the line. And Cutelaba, 27 years old, still has room for growth and potential to cruise into his prime. When he's 30 years old, this is a guy that could really, really be a force to be reckoned with. And I like Ian Cutelaba to win the fight. We take a look at the live line. Let's see what we got here. We got Cutelaba right around a minus 140. And so close line. I'll take Cutelaba to win the fight. Hey, you guys, you're looking for a new sports book? Look no further. I highly, highly recommend Bovada.lv to you guys. In my opinion, it's the best online sports book out there. I've been using them forever. I'll make it quick for you guys. You guys have been hearing me talk about Bovada.lv, for some time now. It's just a great place for you guys to use your money to make some money betting sports, and of course, and particularly betting on MMA, betting on UFC fights. They got every single fight you could think of. They got LFA fights, Dana White's Contender Series fights, Bellator fights. It's all there. If you guys use my referral link, which I'm going to send to you if you're interested, we're going to get a very, very nice bonus. So you're starting off with, you put $100 down, you're starting off with $200. And I'm also going to give you, 3 events, 3 weekends of free picks just for signing up through my referral link. It's a great opportunity for you guys to take advantage of. And I will help you navigate and learn all the aspects of this website, which it's very easy to use. They got a 24/7 customer service phone line you can call as well. It's really where it's at, guys. Easy withdrawals, easy deposits. I'm telling you, Bovada.lv is where it's at. Reach out to me if you're interested in joining, and I will help you get all set up with that. All right, guys. Thank you. All right, we made it to the main event. Once again, guys, please hit that like button for me. Let's get into this main event, though. Anthony Smith taking on Ryan Spann. Anthony Smith, the absolute definition of a gladiator. This guy is as much of a gladiator as anybody in the MMA game. I remember watching him way back in the day, almost like a decade ago, when he was fighting at lower weight classes. I mean, I think even as low as the welterweight division, maybe. I know he's a middleweight fighter, maybe not welterweight, but a guy that slowly, moved up to the higher weight divisions. I think that was the right move for his career. I mean, 6'4" with a 76-inch reach. I mean, a big frame for the division, and a guy that is extremely well-rounded, has the grappling, has the striking. He's hit some bumps in the road throughout his career, but that's what happens when you're fighting the level of opponents that he has been fighting. Anthony Smith looked amazing in his last 2 fights. Got the submission of Devin Clark. Really was impressed with that victory there. Some people were sleeping on him. He was a slight dog in that fight, I think, at moments in time with that line. Again, showing that he's a very talented submission artist for the division. For the light heavyweight division, this guy is one of the more polished submission artists and jiu-jitsu guys. In his last fight, got the finish on Jimmy Crute. Obviously he hurt Jimmy's leg. I think Jimmy tore some ligaments there, but Anthony Smith was looking great in that fight, even before the stoppage. It wasn't necessarily some type of fluke stoppage. That's a big win against Jimmy Crute. Before that, he lost to Rakic, a guy that's going to be throwing his name in the hat down the line, fighting for a belt. You guys know how high I am on Rakic. Glover Teixeira looked amazing in the beginning of that fight. Kind of gassed out because he put such a high amount of volume out there trying to finish Teixeira, and Teixeira's just a guy that's built bricks. We talked about earlier a guy that wouldn't be finished by that Joaquin Buckley kick. I think you could throw Teixeira's name in there. That guy can take a steel bat right to the chin and walk through it. So that was a tough fight for Anthony Smith. Before that, rear naked choked Alexander Gustafsson. Major feather in the cap. Ryan Spann is a guy, he lost to Johnny Walker, got finished in that fight. Very entertaining fight. But you know what? The Sam Alvey fight was not a good look for him either. Came into that fight as a major favorite. Looked very slow and labored in that fight. I haven't necessarily been crazy about Ryan Spann. He's a solid fighter. I happen to think that he's overrated at times in his fights. And although he did look good in his last fight, got the finish against Misha, which I had Misha winning that fight, but that was a tough one for him. Ryan did show up in that fight. Ryan is a guy that as the fights progress and they start to unravel, he gets to be a little bit slow in there. He gets worn. He needs to be working on his cardio. He's a big fella, and his limbs are very labored and slow when they move. Does have good power. He's willing to walk you down. He's willing to try to impose his will on you, which you gotta like. I just don't know if he's going to be able to impose his will on a guy like Anthony Smith. He's going to have a 5.5-inch reach advantage. He's going to have a 1-inch height advantage. He's a big boy. I think Anthony Smith will be the faster fighter, the quicker guy in there, and I see some edges in this fight. Has James Krause in his corner, one of the best coaches in the game. I think Anthony Smith, the longer this fight takes place, will be the quicker opponent. I love the in and out striking game of Anthony Smith, and I am edging Anthony Smith to win this fight. Like I said, you run that tape back against Sam Alvey, and you'll see what I'm talking about. When Spann, I don't think that will be the case, but if Spann tries to go in for takedowns and whatnot, he does gas out. And I think Anthony Smith will give him problems anywhere this fight goes. I think if Spann's going to win this fight, I think that Spann's going to need to really put some damage on Anthony Smith, really hurt him and get Anthony Smith into maybe a state of mind as we saw him in the Glover Teixeira fight. I just don't know if Spann's going to be able to do that. He's going to have to break him, maybe knock some teeth out, and try to really impose his will. I don't know if I see that happening here. I like Anthony Smith to win the main event here. We take a look at the live line. Anthony Smith's right around that -180 range, which is kind of where I would expect it to be. I think that's an accurate line. Anthony Smith, like I said, an absolute gladiator, guy that's been around the block for so long, a guy that has, 41 fights, 51 professional fights, compared to Spann's 25, double the amount of professional fights. I'm going to take Anthony Smith to pull off the victory here. I'll be rooting for him as well. An absolute class act and a solid dude there. So I like Anthony Smith to win the main event there. So you guys know at the end of each of my videos, I like to put out a little bit of a motivational type speech or uh, some type of message that's a little bit more deep than just breaking down these fights. And on today's episode, as I film this September 11th on 9/11, there's no better message than to speak about the tragic incident that happened back in 2001, September 11th. And my message today is first and foremost thoughts and prayers to everybody who lost their lives on that day. My thoughts and prayers for all the family members that still have to deal with that on a daily basis. And the message is that if you guys remember around that time, this country was a lot more united than it is today, and specifically over the last year or two. If you guys can remember how we were united after that incident happened, and how there was some type of sense of one's country, being proud to be American, being proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with all of your fellow Americans, and to work together and to make this country a better place. Maybe we could try to remember those types of days, and we could try to bring that back. And an absolute tragic day in our country. And again, just my thoughts and prayers with everybody that lost a family member, and to the actual souls of those people that are not here today. It's crazy. The Twin Towers, I've been by those buildings many of times. I used to go to New York roughly 5 times a year, just based on a family situation. My father worked in New York. I used to be in New York all the time, and all my family lived in New York, a lot of them. And I actually flew for free as a kid. I had a family member that worked with the airline, so I flew for free, and I used to go to New York all the time. I remember times looking right outside the window in an airplane, right at those Twin Towers, man. If any of you guys back in the day remember flying, I remember just looking at the Twin Towers right out the window. I could visualize that right now. So it's so surreal. I know those towers very well. And today's message is just thoughts and prayers to all the family members, to all the souls that are not with us today. But of course, also for us to stand united as a country, and to love and to support each fellow American, and make this country a better place together. All right, guys. And on that note, signing out, the teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller.